Welcome to Behind the Bar at Cap Cork. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Michael.
And today we're going to talk about Bourbon 101. We're going to get into all of the things for all of you who want to know a little bit more about what bourbon is. That is our plan for today. So Michael, can you give us the 5 rules of what makes something bourbon?
So one of the first rules of bourbon is it has to be made with at least 51% corn. Bourbon is made from a combination of different grains, and one of the biggest ones to make it bourbon, the corn is the number one. You get sweetness from corn, you get a lot of flavor from corn, and without corn, it's just not bourbon.
And the secondary grains that you add to it are what changes the flavor profile. So when you talk about some people like their bourbon spicy, you'll hear that. They're probably wanting more of a rye, higher rye content, and we'll get into some of that later. So after 51% corn, it has to be aged in a brand new charred American oak barrel. That separates us from some of the other whiskeys around the world. Scotches and some of those other things, they are able to use used barrels, but for something to be considered bourbon, it must be aged in a new American oak charred barrels.
There's different levels of char on each barrel. Every distillery does something a little different, but you basically take a flame and you are putting Black Mark's char on that wood, and that's where you get a lot of your flavor from. You get vanilla out of that, you get caramel out of that, and you get all of the color from your bourbon out of that char from your barrel. Speaking of color, another one of the rules of bourbon, you can't add anything to the bourbon except water if it's going to be a bourbon. No fake colorings. Canadian whiskey you can add some coloring to, Scotch you can add some coloring to. To be true Kentucky bourbon, we cannot add anything but water to it.
We talk a lot about entry proof. Michael just talked about water, that you can only add the water to the bourbon, and so bourbon can only go into the barrel at most at 125 entry proof.
Another one of the rules of bourbon is it can't come off the still at more than 160 proof. If it does, by the time we add water to it to get down to where it's supposed to be at 125 to go into the barrel, you're not going to be left with a lot of that bourbon flavor. It's just going to taste like a neutral grain spirit, like a vodka or like a rum. So the entry proof of bourbon is made in such a way that after evaporation, we don't lose the integrity of the spirit. So can't come off the still at more than 160 proof and cannot go into the barrel at more than 125 proof. So in summation, there's a lot of bourbon out there, and we just want you to find the bourbon that's right for you. We talked about rye bourbon that's a little spicy but delicious. We've got wheated bourbon that tends to be a little bit sweet. There's 4-grain bourbon if you can find it. There's lots of great bourbons out there. 5 rules of bourbon. Let's go over them. What were they?
Number 1, they had to be 51% corn. Number 2?
It has to be in a new charred oak container.
It has to come off the still at no less than 160 proof.
Cannot go into the barrel at more than 125 proof is number 4.
And there you cannot have any additives, no coloring, no flavor added to it.
So bourbon is Kentucky spirit, America's spirit for a reason. It's a wonderful product that we enjoy. We hope that you'll have an opportunity to try some of these bourbons. Come visit us here.
Absolutely. We invite you, if there are bourbons that you want to try, come see our knowledgeable staff here at Cap Cork in Henderson, Kentucky.
Until next time, this has been Behind the Bar. Cheers.